All right, well, we'll have the meat of the presentation recorded. Okay, everybody can still see my screen? Okay. So eligibility for our program is pretty straightforward. A property just has to be located in one of the 3 counties that we serve. It has to be an existing multifamily building with 5 or more dwelling units, and it has to receive utility service from one of the major IOUs, so either PG&E, Southern California Edison, or SoCalGas. And CCE customers are included. So if you receive utility service from either Central Coast Community Energy, Clean Power Alliance, or Santa Barbara Clean Energy, those also qualify. Our rebates are structured. We have a kind of a base rebate amount. Right now, rebates for underserved properties are $1,500 per apartment unit. And for general market properties, that base rebate is $1,000 per apartment unit. To be considered an underserved property, a building would have to meet one of the following criteria. So it would have to either contain fewer than 100 units, either be naturally occurring or designated affordable housing, or located in a designated low-income community or disadvantaged community. And then a qualifying project would just include 3 or more measures, or 3 more upgrade types, and save kind of a minimum threshold of greenhouse gas emissions. So that's 0.25 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, but our team would help you figure out if the scope of work that you select will help you meet that criteria. Typically, so the current rebate amounts of $1,500 and $1,000 per apartment unit are a temporary promotion through the end of this year. So if you join our program, enter our program, and start work no later than March 31st of next year, you would qualify for those enhanced incentives. Typically, they are $500 per unit for general market rate properties and $750 for underserved. So still pretty generous, but the current rates are really good. On top of those base rebates, there are additional incentives for high performance equipment, mostly heat pump technology. So you can earn an additional $1,000 per heat pump unit installed on top of the base rebates. And this can include, heat pump water heaters, either in unit or central systems. Same with HVAC. There's incentives for heat pump clothes dryers. I think the only non-heat pump, heat pump pool heaters as well are a big one. The only non-heat pump technology that has this additional incentives are induction cooktops. So there are pretty much anything that saves either energy or greenhouse gas emissions qualifies for our program. And there are a lot of different things that can be included, but they generally fall into 4 categories, and that's hot water heating, water heating systems, HVAC systems, lighting and appliances, and building envelopes. So air sealing, windows, insulation, those types of upgrades. This is just an example project that we include here. So an example 20 unit property that would qualify as an underserved property because it's fewer than 100 units. So it qualifies for that enhanced rebate. If their scope of work includes a central heat pump water heater, controls for hot water recirculation, pipe insulation, split heat pump HVAC systems, and LED lighting, they would qualify for $1,500 per apartment unit. So that's a $30,000 base rebate amount. And because their scope of work includes that heat pump HVAC system and a central heat pump water heater, there are additional incentives on top of that. So their total rebate amount for this project would be $66,000. And that's just for 3C REN. There are other programs that a project likely would qualify for, and our program would do our best to identify those and connect a property owner with those other rebate programs so they can complete a really comprehensive and a really comprehensive project for and receive as many rebates and financial incentives as possible to make it as financially feasible as possible. So one of the most valuable services that our program offers, I think, is our no-cost technical assistance. So every project participant works with a dedicated technical assistant from, that initial on-site visit through project completion. And this technical assistant provides services like energy bill analysis. They do that or in-person site assessment. They can support with developing your scope of work and identifying what the opportunities are and what the best solutions might be. They can support you during the contracting and implementation phases. You're allowed to use whatever contractor you like. So if you work frequently with one or a few, and you want to work with them for this kind of project, you can do that. Otherwise, they can support you in trying to find contractors who can do this type of work. And then, like I mentioned, they act as this one-stop shop to connect property owners with other program rebates that would complement the overall project. And again, provide as many financial incentives as are available. All right, so I think here I'm going to pass it off to David to talk a little bit more about the program and the specific type of upgrades that you can do for your property.
Okay, thanks, Marissa. And just to introduce myself again, I'm David Segan. I work for the Association for Energy Affordability. And like Marissa said, we're contracted by 3CREN to implement the multifamily program. And specifically, we offer the no-cost technical assistance service. So myself or one of my colleagues will act as your single point of contact in helping go through the program and project process. So I'll go through now just some examples of upgrades that we typically recommend and see for these projects. To start off, I just wanted to show this chart. It shows a breakdown of your average multifamily building in California by end use. And you can see that there are major contributors to energy usage in multifamily buildings, and and domestic hot water systems are a big one, along with space heating systems. And this just gives us a general idea of where we should focus most of our attention when we do a site assessment and make recommendations. So thinking about domestic hot water systems, there are several configurations that we see. One are residential systems or in-unit systems. And on the left here, we have a natural gas tank type water heater. And on the right, we have a heat pump tank type water heater. This is, we could replace the one on the left with the heat pump system on the right. And this is a pretty straightforward upgrade, what we'd call plug and play. So not too much engineering design is needed to swap out a natural gas tank type water heater with the heat pump system. A couple considerations that we have with this swap is space. So heat pump water heaters need adequate air intake and exhaust. So we want to make sure that either there's louvers in the space or there's adequate air in the closet that the water heater is, and also electrical capacity. So that's one thing we'll evaluate when recommending that system. Another water heating system is your central system. So serving multiple apartment units. On the left is, again, the natural gas tank type central water heating system. And on the right is a heat pump water heating system. This is a little different than what we saw previously, where it's an integrated heat pump water heater. Here we have a split central heat pump water heating system where the heat exchangers will be outside, so no concern about intake air and exhaust. And the tank is inside, and you just pipe the hot water from the heat exchangers to the tank. This, unlike your in-unit systems, this would require a little more upfront design, and that's something that we will work with the contractors that property owners hire to design the system and make that as like easy as possible. And I guess one other thing I'll say is with central systems, it doesn't have to be this split configuration. You can also have integrated systems. So it all depends on the site and what suits the property best. Next slide. Here are some other measures that can contribute to reducing that big chunk of the pie that the domestic hot water system uses. So in many multifamily buildings, there's a recirculation loop. So you constantly have hot water going around the building, so you don't waste water waiting for it to get hot. Normally that loop is on a high speed, the pump's working full capacity, and we can reduce that to only when it's needed with these first two measures. So you still have the hot water ready to be used, but it's not using as much electricity to pump it around. There's also low flow water fixtures, which are pretty familiar. Shower heads, kitchen faucets, bathroom faucets. We can reduce the gallons per minute that these use to reduce the hot water usage. And lastly, pipe insulation. That's just reducing. Oftentimes we'll see uninsulated pipes where you're just losing heat to the outdoor air. Next, moving on to our heating and cooling systems. So on the left, we have a classic wall furnace. I see these all the time in the Central Coast. And these can be replaced with packaged heat pumps. That's in the middle, or on the far right, the split heat pump system, mini split heat pumps. These, heat pumps, same with water heaters, they use a lot less energy than, or they're just really efficient, up to over 300% efficient, and they achieve that by moving heat between indoor and outdoor air rather than producing heat like the wall furnace. And other benefits of making this swap is eliminating some health and safety issues. So one thing that we'll do during our site assessment is testing these wall furnaces and gas ovens for carbon monoxide spillage. And if there is that issue, then swapping to heat pumps is a great solution. And then we'll also hear from tenants that these wall furnaces are very hot and then cold. They create a burning smell if they sit around for too long. Generally this type of swap achieves an increase in tenant satisfaction with their HVAC system. Yeah. And in another configuration, what is commonly called a central HVAC system in units is your ducted heating and cooling system. We can, this is a great opportunity for a heat pump swap as well. On the left, you have, this is the existing condition where you have your AC unit on the outside of the building and your furnace inside, and on top of that furnace, there'll be an air handling unit. We can remove one of these pieces of equipment, the furnace, and with the heat pump system, so you're down from 3 pieces of equipment to maintain to 2. And the heat pump will be more efficient than your AC unit at cooling and much more efficient than the furnace at heating. And if you already have the existing AC system, electrical capacity isn't really a concern at all with this swap because it'll require the same capacity.
Just one other note, if for the non-ducted units, one thing that's really beneficial about swapping out of wall furnace or just a furnace with the heat pump is that you get AC and heating in one thing, which is as summers are getting hotter, tenants would certainly appreciate it, and it's all in one unit then.
Yeah. So more on the heating and cooling systems, attic insulation is a great way to reduce that load. And I guess just note that if there's no attic insulation, this can be a really high return on the investment, where just adding some insulation leads to much less heat loss in the building. Next, moving on to lighting. So on the left, you have a fluorescent bulb, and on the right, this is a LED fixture that we replaced it with. In general, swapping from incandescent to LED saves over 70 to 90% electricity usage, and swapping from compact fluorescents to LEDs saves about 40 to 50%. And another benefit of these is maintenance costs. So they last a lot longer and saves your maintenance team time. Washing machines. This can be a great low cost swap. If a multifamily building leases washing machines and the lease term is up, then you can often request that the washing machines be replaced at no cost. And front load washers are more efficient than top load washers. They use less water, and that means that if you're using hot water to wash the clothes, then it means you're also heating less water for the washer. They also wring out water better, so you're saving energy on the dryer side. And lastly, their motor is more efficient, so they use less electricity just for spinning the cycle. Yeah, so that wraps up the measure review, and I do recommend 3C Rent has videos on their website that go into more depth on many of these measures. So if you want to dive in deeper, feel free to do that. This is a summary of case studies that my organization AEA has worked on, where the scope of work of these projects have all included electrification measures. So swapping from natural gas HVAC systems and natural gas water heating systems to heat pump systems. And what it shows is that we did a utility bill analyses pre and post for these properties. And we saw over 25% reduction in utility spend. So that's money that the owners are paying for operating costs. And not shown here is the greenhouse gas emissions, which we saw an over 35% reduction. Great, yeah, so, and this is a bit of a summary slide. So to start off, I'd say involve us early. You don't need to have any plan for an upgrade to reach out to us and participate in the program and get no cost technical assistance. If we don't offer our services for projects that have already occurred, so it's a we want to be included in the design phase of the project. Second, the scope of work can be crafted to meet ownership priorities. And what I mean by that is that whether you want to go all out and replace all the systems that achieve the most savings on operating costs and get the most rebates in return, or whether you just want to replace a couple systems that are aging and limit your upfront cost, but still have some savings and take advantage of rebates, we'll work with you in the process to figure out what scope of work meets your needs best. The full program process takes about 6 to 8 months. So that's, what you can expect for timeline from submitting an interest form for the program to project completion. The rebates typically cover 40 to 90% of the cost. And this, like Marissa was saying, where, it's really scope of work dependent, but it's also how many other programs can we leverage to contribute to offsetting the cost of the project. And lastly, the benefits include reduced utility costs, avoided maintenance and replacement costs, enhanced tenant satisfaction, and improved comfort and safety. And as for participation, this is an illustration of the program participation process. So it starts with a property owner submitting an interest form on our website. There'll be a QR code in a couple slides where you can access that website landing page. From there, it initiates our energy consulting, where one of the AEA technical assistants will work with you to develop that scope of work, do the site assessment, and figure out, the contractor costs versus our rebates. Then we'll reserve the rebate and start construction. And lastly, we'll pay out the rebate in the rear of the project. So after construction is complete, that's when we send the check. Okay, and I think that's it for me. I'll pass it back to Marissa.
Thanks, David. Yeah, just a list of different resources. We can share these slides with folks so you have access to the links that are in here. But this is just kind of a non-comprehensive list of other programs, again, that you can leverage for any project that you undertake if you qualify. So we've got a couple pages of those. If you do have any questions about anything we talked about today, or a project or your own property, you can reach out to us at the email listed here or give us a call. I would recommend, like David said, even if you don't have a project in mind, you can fill out an interest form, talk to one of our staff. You can get a better idea of what your property needs or wants are, and whether or not it would be a good option for this program. So with that, I'd just like to open it up to questions from the audience. If there are any, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask it out loud, or type it into the chat box and we'll read it. I see one in the chat box. Why do we promote heat pumps versus tankless water heaters? Well, a couple reasons. Heat pumps are just kind of the more superior with regards to energy efficiency technology. They just use far less energy. They also run on electricity, which is a lot cleaner than gas. The state in general is moving away from gas. The governor just signed a law that will be banning gas appliances after 2030. So that's kind of a new one, but another one as to why we're promoting heat pumps pretty heavily. The state is really focused on them and moving in that direction. And there are just there's a lot of money right now for heat pump technology. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes just in case anything comes up. We'll send a follow-up. There we go. Can older multifamilies still be considered? Yes, I would say especially older multifamily buildings that probably have lots of opportunity and are probably very energy inefficient would have, would be very much compatible with this program. So if you've got one that you are the owner of, even if you just want to see what the opportunities are, I would definitely encourage you to fill out that interest form. The only buildings that are not eligible for our program are new construction. So any existing multifamily building with 5 or more units qualifies for our program. All right. Like I said, I'll stick around for another few minutes. If anybody has to go, you are free to take off. We'll send a follow-up email with the slides and our contact information, a link to the interest form, and definitely hope to hear from you all soon.